Hello and welcome to Expats Everywhere. If you could tell us your name, where you're from, and a little about yourself.
Sure, I'm Gabrielle. I'm from California, Northern California, near San Francisco, and I've taught in Turkey here and then back home in the States,
Okay, where is here?
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, okay. Well, what was it like working in Turkey?
Turkey was great. I worked there for 2 years,
Mhm.
and I had a really good time there. It was my first time actually living outside of the States, and it was really good.
Cool. Were you in one city or multiple cities?
I was in Istanbul. I did get a chance to travel around a little bit when I was there, but I was stationed in Istanbul, yeah.
Okay, cool. What types of jobs were available for English-speaking expats in Istanbul?
Hmm. You could do a lot of different things, but mostly English teaching. I knew some people who did privates, but most of the good, steady jobs were regular school lessons during school hours with kids.
Okay, are these international schools or local schools?
They have both, and
Okay,
I worked at a local school, but some of my friends who had actual teaching degrees ended up working at international schools, and they loved it too.
awesome. Well, what did a typical day look like for you at the public school you worked at?
My first year, I lived on the opposite side of the city. So the city is on two continents,
Wow.
Europe and Asia.
Mhm.
And I'd wake up in the morning, walk to the ferry station, get on the ferry, do my lesson planning or take a nap on the ferry. And then when I got back to the other ferry station, I'd either catch a cab or walk to my other school. Then I don't know, I had kindergartners, so we'd do a little PE lesson with them first, and then I just take trips from class to class doing my lessons, go home and go to sleep or go back out.
So what was the commute like?
I actually would recommend taking the ferry back and forth from work. I switched the following year. I had a 2 year contract. The first year I worked on the other side, and the second year I switched to be closer to home. And I ended up really missing that commute because the water was just so peaceful, and that 30 minutes there and back on the ferry gave me a chance to kind of unload and, you know, get in the mindset for work and then get in the mindset for home going back. So I liked it.
So it was a good time to decompress a bit.
Oh yeah, and
Awesome.
it helps that I would get to see the sunset, and one time I even saw dolphins. It was really cool.
Well, do you know of anyone else that had a job outside of ESL, an English-speaking expat?
Hmm. Yeah, I know people who worked in the art arena, so they would work on exhibitions or people who did tourism and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. How much can you expect to earn working in Istanbul as an ESL teacher?
It varies quite a bit. So for the private school jobs, they call them vakıfs. It's like, it means like a chain or franchise of schools.
Hmm.
Those, I think starting salary is about 2,000 US. So I would say you'd probably make about 2 to 3,000, okay, depending on your experience and how long you stayed with each particular school. Because my salary did go up every year, kind of like here.
Okay. And do you think that this is enough? What kind of lifestyle can you live with this type of money?
I paid my student loans while I was making that type of money, and now I wouldn't know how I would do that with $2,000 a month. But actually, it was really great because the cost of living is pretty low there. So, I mean, I know it's on the rise right now, but when I was there, 2,000, it was maybe 2,200 is what I was making, and they gave me a little bit of money to help with my apartment, but it was more than enough.
Okay. How much can you save? How much of your paycheck?
Hmm. Well, I'll just explain what I did. I had student loans that I was paying, and so when I would get my salary of 2,200 or whatever it was, 21, 22, I would just take 1,000 out right away and pay it directly to my loans. And then from that, I would live on the rest of it. I still ended up saving enough to go to Europe and Egypt, and I came home during the summer. Summers were paid too, so.
Wow, that's great. So at least half of your salary you could save. If you were recommending to a friend to move to Istanbul, what would you tell them they need in terms of startup cash?
Um, I didn't go there with that much. I
Mhm.
think I went there with like $1,000 or something in my bag.
And it was
So
very comfortable.
yeah, well, the school that I worked for, they would put you up in an apartment furnished,
Hmm.
and a lot of the schools are like that too. The private schools, but I wanted to live in the city and, do my own thing and see what that was like. So I found a realtor who didn't speak any English and kind of went from place to place, and I had a great time. My first apartment was a disaster. My second apartment was really cool and cheap too.
Nice. Well, would you recommend that someone has a job before they move there, or should they move there and then start looking for work?
Mm. It would be easy to do either, I think.
Really?
I had a job offer before I moved there, but the girl who found that job had just went there on the ground and went from place to place till she found a job. They're always looking for teachers. Big city too.
Okay, great. So either one works.
Yeah.
Very cool. So imagine that we have a job and we're ready to go to Istanbul. How should someone pack? What's the weather like?
The weather's pretty mild. It gets a little bit chilly in the winter, but you'll see a lot of sunny days even during the winter. It rains a lot. The summer is hot, and everyone kind of evacuates the city during the summer and goes to really nice beach towns. So if you're there during the summer, that might not be that pleasant, but...
Okay. Are there any things that maybe you can't find in Istanbul or Turkey that you should bring from home?
It changed quite a bit from when I first got there till when I left, even in those 2 years. But I'm trying to think, maybe American processed foods and stuff like that might be a little hard to find, but I could find almost everything.
Okay. How safe is it there? Did you feel safe on a personal level?
Well, I got mugged when I was there, but it's very crowded and there's a lot of people. So I wouldn't recommend going places by yourself at nighttime, is what I can say, and be aware of your surroundings at all times. If you're not street smart at all, then you might want to stay in groups at all times.
Okay, so was this a mugging or a pickpocketing?
This was a mugging.
So it was physical.
It was very physical, yes.
Okay. And did the police do anything about it, or what
Yeah,
happened?
the police came and they kind of scared me almost as much as the mugger, and I needed to go to the hospital, and they were telling me that if I didn't come to the police station right away that, they wouldn't try to find my bag or whatever, and I just said, fine, my bag's gone, I need to go to the hospital, so.
Wow. All right. How did you meet people?
I lived really close to a fine arts university, and I met a few people who went there, and they would have parties all the time there. And so and not just parties, but art exhibitions and social gatherings, which would turn into parties inevitably. And I made so many friends that way who just had really cool talents. Istanbul is a very cool place if you are into the arts or fashion or anything like that. It's pretty up and coming in that way.
Okay, so it sounds pretty easy to find new people to hang out with if you just put yourself out of it.
Yeah, if you walk down the street, actually, the last time I visited a friend, I was walking to go pick her up from her apartment, and someone just put something in my hand, and I look and there's a big crowd, and it's an art exhibition, and someone put a bottle of some type of mixed drink with Absolute Vodka was sponsoring it.
Oh.
So you'll have art exhibitions all the time where they'll have free wine, free beer, and just art and people socializing. So you can meet someone over the painting you're looking at or something like that.
Very cool. What can you do for fun in Istanbul?
Istanbul is very nocturnal. There's a lot of people out there. The main areas, there's three main areas in Istanbul. One is Istiklal Street, and it's a really long street ending in Taksim Square and beginning in Galata Square. So there are two squares where there's a lot of people, and all the way in between there's just tons of people walking back and forth. And like I said, art exhibitions, bars, restaurants, all kinds of stuff. The other area is Bağdat Street, and that's more of a shopping area, and Kadıköy, which is more of just a little bar area. So between those three areas, you should always be able to find something to do.
Okay. So you told me earlier that you learned a bit of Turkish. Is that right?
Yeah.
And would you recommend someone studies Turkish before they move there? Is that necessary?
I'd never really heard Turkish before I moved there, and I became pretty fluent within 2 years. And that's just because of how socially active I was able to be. And I mostly owe that to my first year working with kindergartners. It's really
Yeah.
easy to talk with them, yeah.
Did you have to put in a lot of effort to learn?
My first year I did. I was just learning. I had a little journal I'd carry around with me, and their alphabet's really easy to sound out and read. So I would just sound out words I heard and then ask people what they were or find it in a dictionary. And I think I could understand close to 75% of what I was hearing within my first year.
Wow,
And my
good for
second
you.
year I started talking, so it's great.
That is great. Do you think that Istanbul is a good travel hub? Why or why not?
Yeah, it's great because it's right there. I mean, it is situated on two continents. So you could go eastward toward Asia or discover more of the Middle East, or you could go west.
If you could, tell us 3 interesting places that if you're living in Istanbul that you should definitely travel to.
Number 1 is Cappadocia. It's a small village in the middle of the country, and I recommend that just because Istanbul can be really encompassing the way that it's always bustling, always busy, always noisy, and Cappadocia is the opposite. It's really beautiful natural rock structures. There we go. And old ladies selling food on the side of the road and taking care of you. Everybody's really friendly. That place is great. Izmir, by the water, they call it the San Francisco of Turkey because it's known to be more progressive and forward thinking, and that's a really cool place too. Number 3, I didn't go to Bulgaria or Greece, but they're right there, so it would be very easy. No, that's not my answer. Number 3 is Bodrum. Bodrum is a beach town, and that's the Turkish summer holiday experience. It's really great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
If you could, tell us, what does a weekly or monthly budget look like in Istanbul?
Okay, my rent for my apartment, I had a pretty spacious open, a 1-bedroom apartment, and that cost around $600 a month, I would say. My food was pretty cheap. I would say I spent maybe $50 on groceries a week. I went out all the time. Beer is cheap, so like $3 a beer, $4 a beer. You could spend a lot on restaurants depending on what kind of restaurants you're going to. So you could spend up to $30, $40 a meal, or you could make it as low as $5 a meal, depending on what you want to eat.
And what are the different types of transportation?
Ooh, that's good. Transportation in Turkey is really excellent. That's the most efficient transportation I've ever seen. So they have something called a dolmuş that I've never seen in any other country. And these are these big yellow vans. They're shared taxis.
Okay.
So you get in and you wait for it to fill up. You pay a flat rate, like maybe $3 or $5, and it goes on its route, which is from one side of the city to the other, and stops at several stops, depending on who in the taxi needs to get off. So that was really convenient to be able to take that. The ferry is really convenient, and then if all else, there's a train, a metro, a tramway, and then if all else fails, there's a taxi too. It's all cheap too.